It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when I realized something was wrong. It wasn't the usual rustling of leaves or the hum of the neighborhood, but something far more unsettling. My Amazon package, the one I'd been waiting for all week, was gone. Not just misplaced, not lost in the shuffle. It had vanished just like that, the peace of the day shattered, replaced with an eerie sense of betrayal. I checked my doorbell camera, the one I installed for moments just like this. And there she was, Karen, the woman next door, the one who had become a constant thorn in my side. She didn't even try to hide it. There she was, in broad daylight, walking off with my package like it was hers to take. I had a sinking feeling this wasn't the first time, and in that moment, I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. It was time to make things right. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in Austin, Texas. The kind of day where the sun lazily dripped through the trees and the heat shimmered off the pavement. Jake Sullivan had just moved into his new house in the Maplewood neighborhood, eager to start a fresh chapter of his life. The house, nestled on a cul-de-sac with a neatly manicured lawn and freshly painted shutters, felt like it could be home. Everything seemed perfect. Except for one thing, Karen Thompson. Jake had heard the rumors. The neighborhood HOA president, the self-appointed guardian of order, as the locals like to call her. She had a reputation controlling, petty, and always meddling where she wasn't wanted. At first, Jake brushed it off. He was busy with work, unpacking, and setting up his home. But little did he know, his first brush with Karen was about to come much sooner than he expected. It started with an Amazon package, nothing extraordinary. Just a high-tech gaming headset he'd been eagerly anticipating. Jake had been tracking the delivery all day, and when he saw the notification that it had been delivered, he couldn't wait to rip open the box. But when he stepped outside to retrieve it from his porch, his stomach dropped. The space where his package should have been was empty. The porch was still, quiet, eerily so. No package. Jake's first thought was that maybe he had missed it. Maybe it had been misplaced. But deep down, he knew something was off. He pulled out his phone, opened the doorbell camera app, and scrolled through the footage. And there she was, Karen Thompson, standing on his porch in broad daylight, wearing that smug, self-satisfied grin, casually taking the package and walking off as though she owned it. No hesitation, no attempt to hide her face, just the audacity to take something that wasn't hers. Jake stared at the footage, his blood boiling. He had only moved in a few weeks ago, and already Karen had decided to mark her territory, to lay claim to something that wasn't hers. She was brazen about it. There was no shame, no attempt to be subtle. It wasn't just about the package. It was the principle, the nerve. How could she think she could get away with it? His first instinct was to call the police. But he knew how that would go. A report would be filed. They would send an officer over, who would knock on Karen's door, and she would deny everything. She was a neighborhood figure, and she had already woven a web of influence within the HOA. Jake knew that filing a police report would get him nowhere. No, this needed to be handled differently. Jake wasn't going to let Karen off the hook. He had to confront her directly, face to face. The walk across her immaculate front lawn felt like a battlefield, his mind racing with all the possibilities of what would happen next. He rang the doorbell, and within seconds, Karen opened the door, her smile tight and fake. She looked like she had been expecting him, as though she knew what was coming, but wasn't going to make it easy. "Can I help you?" she asked, the sweetness in her voice dripping with artificial politeness. Jake's eyes narrowed. He wasn't here for pleasantries. "Karen," he began, keeping his voice steady but firm. "I think you accidentally grabbed my package earlier today. It was delivered to my porch, and you took it." Her eyes flickered for a moment, as though she was processing the accusation, but she quickly recovered, putting on her best innocent act. "My package. Oh my goodness. That must have been a mistake," she gasped, placing a hand over her chest like he had just accused her of murder. "I thought it was mine. You know, Amazon sometimes mixes things up. Jake wasn't buying it. Not for a second. He didn't even flinch. It had my name on it, he said, his voice growing colder. I saw you take it. Karen, right off my porch. I have it on video. She blinked, feigning confusion. What are you talking about? She replied, crossing her arms defensively. Maybe Amazon got it wrong. Or maybe it was just left on your porch by mistake. Jake didn't miss the quick glance she cast behind her, where he could see the package sitting on her entryway table. Still unopened, still sealed. The evidence was right there in front of her. And she knew it. But she wasn't going to admit anything. I saw it. Karen. Jake pressed. It's on camera. You took it. Her facade wavered. But only for a split second. The tension in the air thickened as she tried to calculate her next move. I don't appreciate being accused of theft, she said, her voice turning cold. If you want to make a big deal out of this, maybe you should call Amazon. Or the HOA. Maybe they can help you more than I can. Jake's jaw clenched. He knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to turn the situation around on him. She was playing the victim. But Jake wasn't going to fall for it. If you don't have it, he said, taking a step back, I'll just check with the HOA. I'm sure they'd love to see the footage. At the mention of the HOA, Karen's face stiffened. And for a moment, Jake saw her guard drop. She was calculating her next move. But before she could respond, a dog began barking wildly inside her house. And for the briefest moment, Karen's eyes flickered down to the table where Jake could clearly see the package. There it was, still sitting on her table. Jake didn't need to say anything more. The evidence was right there. She had been caught. With a forced smile, Jake turned and walked back down the steps, his mind already working on his next move. Karen had underestimated him. And now, the real game was about to begin. Jake sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone. The footage from his doorbell camera replayed in his mind. The image of Karen walking off his porch with his Amazon package. His blood still boiled when he thought about it. He was a man of patience. But Karen had crossed a line this time. It wasn't just the stolen package. It was the audacity. The complete disregard for anyone else's property or boundaries. He had to act. And he had to act fast. But first, he needed more proof. Karen wasn't just going to admit she'd stolen his package. She had built her entire reputation on twisting the truth, manipulating the neighborhood, and getting away with things that no one else could. Jake couldn't afford to make a mistake. This time, he had to get her cornered, caught red-handed with no way out. The idea hit him like a light bulb going off. He wasn't just going to accuse Karen of stealing his package. He was going to set her up. Not in a violent or dangerous way, but in a way that would force her to expose herself. Jake's plan had to be calculated, clever, and undeniable. He needed evidence, real evidence that would force the HOA, the police, and everyone in the neighborhood to see Karen for who she really was, a petty thief who had been getting away with this for far too long. Jake grabbed his laptop and started browsing through online retailers. He scrolled through Amazon, searching for something that would grab Karen's attention. He needed something shiny, new, and most importantly, something she couldn't resist. After a few minutes, he found it a brand new pair of Bluetooth headphones, the perfect bait, expensive, high-tech, and something Karen would surely think was worth stealing. He ordered the headphones and made a note in his calendar for when they would be delivered. Then he went to work. He grabbed an old, empty Amazon box and placed the new headphones inside, making sure to secure it carefully so it looked legitimate. But Jake wasn't done yet. He needed one more thing to ensure Karen would take the bait: a small GPS tracker. He'd heard about these trackers from his friend Mark, who was into tech gadgets, and Mark had promised to lend him one for this very purpose. The tracker would allow Jake to follow the package's journey and confirm beyond a doubt that it was Karen who took it. A few days later, Jake was sitting in his living room, his eyes darting to the window as he waited for the delivery truck. His phone buzzed with an update: his package was about to arrive. Jake's pulse quickened. This was it. He'd set the trap. And now he just had to wait for the right moment. Around 300 p.m., Jake saw the familiar blue Amazon truck pull up to his house. He watched from behind the blinds as the delivery driver carefully placed the package on his porch and snapped a photo. Jake held his breath, waiting for the inevitable. The seconds felt like hours, and just as he thought he might lose his nerve, movement. Karen's house door opened, and Jake saw her step out, eyes scanning the street like a hawk, searching for its prey. She paused, noticed the package, and, with a glance to make sure no one was watching, she began her approach. Jake watched in silent triumph as Karen reached for the package and swiftly grabbed it. His heart raced as he saw her tuck it under her arm and walk back toward her house. The trap had worked. The GPS tracker was already pinging, showing that the package was now inside her home. The plan had worked perfectly, but Jake wasn't done yet. He still had to make sure that this time, Karen couldn't talk her way out of it. He had the proof now. All he had to do was wait for the right moment. The stage was set, and Karen had just walked right into his trap. The next morning, Jake stood at the window, watching as Karen's house came to life. She had already taken her dog for a walk, her usual routine that Jake had memorized over the weeks. He sat at his kitchen table, his phone in hand, waiting for the moment to strike. His mind raced. He knew that confronting her was inevitable. But how exactly would he do it? The key was to stay calm, to present the evidence in a way that would leave Karen no room to wriggle out of it. The clock on the wall ticked away as the sun climbed higher. Jake couldn't help but replay the events of the last few days in his head. He had spent the entire night thinking about how he could make this moment count. The plan had worked. Karen had taken the bait. The GPS tracker had confirmed it. Now, it was time to make her face the consequences. Jake's phone buzzed. It was the notification he had been waiting for. The GPS had pinged again. Karen had moved the package again. She was leaving her house, walking toward the car, the package still tucked under her arm. Jake's heart started to race. This was it. He grabbed his jacket and his phone, making sure everything was ready. He needed to be there, in front of her house. When she made her next move, walking outside, Jake felt the familiar warmth of the sun on his face. But there was no time to savor it. He had one objective now: to confront Karen and make sure everyone in the neighborhood knew who she really was. His footsteps echoed on the concrete sidewalk as he made his way toward her house. His nerves were steady, but the sense of urgency in his chest pushed him forward. As he reached Karen's doorstep, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Mark. "You got this. Man, stay calm. Don't let her turn this on you. You've got the footage." Jake smiled briefly, grateful for Mark's support. He took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Moments later, Karen opened the door, wearing an exaggerated frown as though he were inconveniencing her. "Jake, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sugary sweet, hiding the tension beneath the surface. "I think you know why I'm here," Jake said, his voice even. He wasn't going to let her spin this. "You took something from my porch yesterday, my Amazon package. I have the footage." Karen's face shifted, just slightly. But it was enough. It was the first crack in her armor. She cut herself off, visibly frustrated by his accusation. "Look," Jake continued, pulling out his phone. "I don't want to make a scene, but I will. You've been taking packages from people's porches for months. Karen, I've heard the complaints. It's over. You're not getting away with it this time." He pressed play on the doorbell footage, and Karen's eyes widened as the video clearly showed her picking up the package from his porch. There was no denying it. The smug expression on her face in the video told Jake everything he needed to know. The arrogance, the sense of entitlement. Karen's eyes darted to the ground, her fingers gripping the doorframe tightly. That's not what it looks like. I thought it was mine," she said, her voice trembling. No longer the confident tone she'd used when she first answered the door. Jake took a step forward. "No, that was my package, and you knew it." Karen's defenses crumbled as she realized she had no escape. She opened her mouth to protest, But the words didn't come. Her shoulders slumped as her posture deflated. This time, Jake wasn't going to let her get away with her usual act. "I'm not here to argue," Jake said, keeping his voice steady but firm. "I'm here to make sure this stops. I'm going to share this footage with the HOA, with the police, with anyone who needs to see it. You're done, Karen." The tension between them was palpable, as if the air itself was thickening with the weight of the moment. For a long, agonizing second, Karen said nothing. Then, with a quiet, defeated sigh, she stepped aside, her face pale, and allowed Jake to enter. "Fine," she muttered, "but you'll regret this." Jake's heart pounded, but he remained calm, knowing he had won this round. He didn't need to say anything more. He walked away, his mind already turning to the next steps. The confrontation was over, but the real work was just beginning. As Jake turned and walked back down her driveway, he felt the weight of the situation lift from his shoulders. He had done the right thing, but as he glanced over his shoulder at Karen's house, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from finished.